Good morning and welcome, everyone. This is Michael Gibbs, and I'm the founder and CEO of GoCloud Careers. And I'm here to help you build your absolute best cloud computing career. If you're looking for your first cloud architect job, or first solution architect job, or first enterprise architect job, or first cloud engineer job, I'm here to help answer your questions. I've been working in tech now for 25 years and coaching others to get their first tech job or promoted in tech for more than two decades. And I want to help you get cloud hired. And I know from experience, after coaching others and seeing what people have done, in so many cases, they work so hard, but they learn the wrong things. They learn the skills for somebody else's job. And I want to make sure you know how to learn the skills for your job, that you actually know what the job is, the job you actually desire, so you can prepare for that job. And when you go on that interview, you can get hired. I've interviewed thousands and thousands of people over the years. And as a hiring manager, I'm going to tell you, it's so hard to find a qualified, capable technology professional. I mean, it's so hard that we'll hire people with no background sometimes if they've got good knowledge. And that's the secret to getting hired, both being competent plus all those other attributes that managers want. And I know what they are because I've asked thousands of managers and recruiters over the last 25 years, what do you want in the perfect employee? And everybody I asked gave me an answer because I have that information. I can guide you and tell you exactly what the hiring manager wants and the skills that you need for the specific job you want, whether it be a solution architect job, cloud architect job, network architect job, enterprise architect job, because that's what I do. I boost people's careers and help them get hired. So come on and ask us your questions. That's why we're here today. Now, I'm sure many of you bring questions, and I love answering your questions because I love when people get cloud hired. But we have a couple of free things we're doing to help you get cloud hired that I'd like to tell you about before we even begin. Our team has released a completely brand new exam guide. It's a full book on passing the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate and Professional exams. The new exams, the SAA-CO3 and the SAP-CO2. I want you getting passing these exams and easily. I don't want you to pay for training at all. It's not necessary. So my team and about 100 people in our organization wrote a book for you to make sure that you know all the concepts and you can pass the exam simply, and you even know a little more about the content than you'd ever find in a paid certification course. All free. So please download that ebook, the exam guide. The link is in the chat box as well as the description below. Now, on Thursday next week, we're going to have our webinar on Zoom. And on this webinar, I will tell you exactly how to get your first cloud architect job or first solution architect job. We will go over the roles so you know exactly what the role is, since most people have it wrong. They have no idea what we actually do. They learn around things, and then we can't hire them because they don't have the skills. We will talk about how to not get auto-rejected by HR and get your resume directly in the hands of the hiring manager. We'll talk a little bit about the kind of things that need to be on your resume. We'll talk exactly about all the skills that you need to learn and why you need to learn them and how they're applicable in the role. And I'll tell you exactly the steps to get your first cloud architect job, all completely free. Now, I'm going to tell you right now that we're going to be sending out a lot more content on LinkedIn. We've posted about 60 magazine articles so far this year that I was actually in big magazines like Tech Republic and Information Week, DevOps Magazine, Today's Modern Educator, and I'm Investors Business Daily, and I'm in big magazines constantly. So we distribute them on LinkedIn, and if you really want to learn a lot more, follow us on LinkedIn. We'll talk about our free courses, our upcoming training, and we've got some really exciting things coming, and I mean really, really exciting things coming to help the entire cloud architect community. So please follow us on LinkedIn. And of course, my team, until the end of the month, which is coming up real soon, has extended our security discount, which is 30% off of all of our products. Once that's gone, it's gone, and it's not going to be back. It's not like it's going to be back, in a couple of days. So take advantage of it while you can. So give me a hashtag cloud architect, a hashtag solution architect, a hashtag cloud engineer, hashtag DevOps engineer, whatever it is, the career of your dreams. Give us a hashtag. So I know you're here. Give me a hashtag cloud hired and ask me your question. Meantime, I'm going to drink my green tea because I have a bit of an overused throat. So please ask me some questions so I can help you. And heck, while we're at it, tell me where you're from. I like knowing where you're from. I'm in Port St. Lucie, Florida today. Hi, Giovanni. It's so good to see you. I haven't seen you in a little while. Welcome back, and I'm thrilled you're here. Douglas G, I am always thrilled to see you. Good morning, Collins. I'm always thrilled to see you. Up and Up excited to be here? Yes, I'm thrilled you're here, Up and Up. Chow, are you guys coming with questions? We are ready to help you get closer to cloud hire. That's true. That's coming from my amazing Chow. Chow is an extraordinary, incredible cloud architect. She helps lots of my students as a coach to them, and she's here helping you. So please give us your questions. Chow will feed them to me and others, and she will help you all get cloud hired. Collins, invite your friends to benefit also. Yes, please invite others. Tell others. You're never going to find a CEO with 25 years of tech experience coming online and YouTube and answering your questions for free. Please tell others. I love helping the world. I don't really need to work. So in my retirement, I get people hired. That's what I do. I was retired for a while. I was doing some coaching on the side, and then I got a lot of people hired, and I love it. Elizabeth James, the new add-on in the waiting video really got you. Yeah, it got me too. When Chris from my team showed me that, I was so excited to see it. I was totally blown away. Pradeep, it's so good to see you. Pradeep, welcome. Good morning. Bring me some questions so I can help you. Don't be shy. I'm not a scary guy. I'm a soft, cuddly teddy bear, so to speak. Rainy day in Dallas. Yeah, I could see that. It's been cold in Florida, at least where I live. You know, it made it down to 60 the other day, and we were all freezing with our winter coats and things like that. Douglas G in Washington D.C. You know, Douglas, I always see you as a New Jersey guy, but Washington D.C. makes sense too. D.C. Hi, Desmond in Dallas. Thrilled to see you. Pradeep, as it will be your first cloud career, what what well, I'm trying to bear with me as I try to read this. What needs to be taken care of for prepping it and the entire career process go? If you want to be a cloud architect, what will be your roles and responsibilities? Great question. So let's talk about the cloud architect role. I love answering that. And that can be your first job. And I'll tell you exactly how to get it. What do we do as cloud architects? Well, really what we do is the following. We design, present, and sell a technology solution to a customer. So because of that, the skills that we actually need are different than most people think. If our goal is to design, present, and sell, that's the main role. But what is the point of a cloud architect, Pradeep? It's for something called digital transformation. And what is digital transformation? Digital transformation is when you improve a customer's business with technology. So Pradeep, you know, you it looks like you're fairly young. When I was younger, when you wanted to call someone, you went to your home and you picked up a phone that was inside of your house, you dialed a number, and if the person was home, their phone would ring. And if the person was not home, you couldn't call them. And you'd keep calling back, or you might even leave a message on somebody's answering machine, which used to have cassette tapes in it. Then a couple of years later, Pradeep, all of a sudden there was mobile phones. Now, granted, they were in cars and then they were bags, but now you could call people. A couple of years later, we had these little flip phones. And with this, I could call my girlfriend and try to set up a date with her. And it was really cool because you could find people. And after that came messaging and video messaging. And you can see each one of those steps changed the way we live, work, and play. Well, digital transformation is no different. Digital transformation is about making your customer, which is a business, perform better, to be able to earn more money, to work with less employees, to make sure the employees could do more, to get people communicating and collaborating where I have somebody in Bangalore and somebody in New York and somebody in Cape Town all at the same time, and they're all working as if they're in the same room. That's digital transformation. So what we do as an architect is that. Now, in order to do that transformation, which is our main job, we have to understand business. And the reason that is you can't transform a business if you don't understand business. So the things you need to learn, I'm going to give you a good list right now. Now, every one of these things Pradeep has taught in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. And that is by far the fastest and cheapest way to get there. You can do these things on your own. And I'm going to tell you all these things that you could learn. It will cost you 30 to 50 times more to do them on your own. I don't need to work, and that's why we have our program. But I'm going to tell you all the things you need to learn because I don't want to hold you hostage to just buying our things. Now, in order to meet with a client, get their business requirements and understand their business requirements and understand how to solve those business problems, we're going to start with the business elements and then we're going to go to the technology elements. Now, the business elements are: who can you possibly ask about the company's business goals and pain points and challenges for the future? You're going to ask their executive leadership team, the CEO, the CTO, the CIO, which means in order to interact with them, you're going to need to be trained in something called CXO relevancy. We teach this in our course. I have between $10,000 and $20,000 of CXO relevancy training, and that's how much I know how much it costs. But we teach this extensively in our program. Now, additionally, once you get past the CXO relevancy, which is how you can speak to the C-level audience, the next thing that you need to understand is you need to be able to understand business. So when you look at a customer's balance sheet and financial statements and they're struggling with the cost of goods sold being too high, for example, or they're struggling with employee costs, for example, you need to be able to know what things that you can do to help solve those problems. So that means you need a level of business acumen. Now, we teach this in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. It's also available, that level of business I'm given in an MBA program. I don't care where you get it. I'm just telling you what you need to know. And then beyond that, as an architect, you're going to be communicating on most of your job because you're going to be presenting at conferences. You're going to be selling to clients. You're going to be building teams inside of your organization of a bunch of people to help you design things because nothing good was ever designed by one person. So you're going to need stellar communication skills. Now, because our job is design, present, and sell, you need to learn sales. We teach sales in our organization. If not, there's sales training that's out there. And here's why you have to sell. When you talk to your customer, build their business requirements, and your team designs it, what you have right now is PowerPoint ware. I mean, it's slides and beautiful PowerPoint slides, beautiful documents, but you need the customer to say, yes, I want this in my organization. And that means you need to learn how to sell. Now, also, Purdue, when you go to your customer site and you come back and you've got a laundry list of requirements, everything from a firewall all the way down to microsegmentation in the network on the way to the cloud, you're going to need to build a team. And to do that, you're going to have to be able to go back to your customer, your own company, and go up to the management levels and say, I need these 3 cloud security architects, this cloud IAM architect, this big data architect, this cloud network architect, these number of DevOps engineers, etc., and all the things that you need. So that means you're going to need sales skills internally inside of your organization. Now, when it comes to selling customers a billion-dollar solution, which is nothing uncommon, you're going to have to be able to convince the customer they need it. Now, it's not like selling a car where you can say, imagine how good you're going to feel in these nice leather seats and how young you'll feel driving down the highway. You can't say that because customers don't want to buy technology. They buy it to solve a business problem. So, Pradeep, what you're going to need to understand is how to build a business case. What is a business case? The business case is where you calculate the expected value of the opportunity you're providing, and you build some modeling around that, and you show the customer that if they spend $1 billion on your tech, guess what they're getting? $2 or $3 billion in increased revenue or decreased expenses. So you got to be able to position that. And that's called building a business case or building a return on investment capital model. Now, a lot of what we do, Pradeep, is responding to something called RFIs, RFPs, RFQs, requests for information, requests for quote or pricing, etc. And we're doing this, responding to these because that's part of the sales process. Now, that could be 10% of your time in your job, responding to these RFIs, RFPs, or RFQs. So again, lots of writing. Now, when we do writing, we have to be able to do multiple kinds of writing. We have to be able to do technical writing and take something very complicated and make it sound simple for the people that are going to build it because we don't want to make mistakes, communication skills if they miss, bad mistakes. We're going to have to write something for the managers that are involved. And we also have to write something to the CXO level people, the CEO, CIO, etc. And we have to do that because they have to buy our stuff. So we've got to build the papers around this. Now, as an architect, you're going to be writing thought leadership documents, things that shape an industry. For example, when I was at Cisco and I was lead architect for the healthcare industry, I wrote a document called the Medical Grade Network. And that had me flying 200,000-300,000 miles a year just to teach others about this medical architecture. And you wouldn't believe the amount of revenue that was derived from that architecture because it helps so many healthcare organizations. And the next thing that's really critical, and I haven't gotten to the tech yet, Pradeep, and I will, but this is why people that get certified don't get hired without learning other architect things, because the business piece is 50 to plus percent of the job. Is something called CX, something called executive presence. It could be called je ne sais quoi. It could be called gravitas. And here's what we're talking about: making sure that your message is delivered. So if I said to you, the cloud is a network and a data center that costs maybe more than that in the traditional environment, maybe less, but it's highly agile. You're going to look at me and escort me out to the room. Nobody's going to ever listen to me for my billion-dollar solution. But if I said, while I love cloud computing, in some cases the cloud can cost more, in some cases the cloud could cost less. So it's really dependent upon what does your organization need. If you need higher performance, we can build you a private cloud in your data center. If you need more scalability and agility, we can build you we can go to the public cloud. And when I can have a conversation like that in those terms where people can feel me, that's called gravitas or executive presence. So those are the business skills that you need. Now, next, we're going to get into the tech skills. Now, Pradeep, what are we really doing as architects? We're designing a solution to solve business problems. Now, there's two things we're going to be doing. Most of what we deal with is building the plan to take those systems from the network and the data center and migrate them to the cloud. So in order to do that, what do we need to learn? On the networking side, we need to learn BGP, because it's going to be the routing protocol that's going to direct our traffic, and that's how we're going to engineer our traffic. We have to learn IP addressing, subnetting, supernetting, and IP address planning, because if we don't do that, that's the foundation of the network, the foundation of the way your traffic is going to flow. Our systems will fall apart with scale. Next, we need to determine the kind of WAN technologies we're using that are going to connect the customer to the cloud, because their internal systems are not going to be over the internet. No, they could be over a VPN. So we need to determine the proper type of connectivity our clients need and the performance of it. So we have to make a determination whether we use an SSL-based VPN or an IPsec-based VPN or a private line or an Ethernet over MPLS private line or a software-defined networking solution or a SASE solution. So we need to know a lot about that because we can't design these systems. Now, after we get through that, what are the other things that we need to really know about? Well, we need to know about switching because we're going to be dealing with switching on the way to the cloud, which means we need to understand VLANs and VLAN tagging and VLAN trunking, spanning tree, rapid spanning tree, those protocols. But that also means we need to understand link bundling protocols, such as link aggregation groups. And we need to have a good, strong knowledge of DNS, DHCP, ARP, and proxy ARP, because that'll really help us understand the key that's going to let our traffic work and flow from point A to point B. And you can't design a system where there's no network. So next, we actually get to the data center things, which makes up the cloud. Plus, the network things make up the cloud. And that means servers and server virtualization, containers and container orchestration, storage area networks and how they work, and not the nonsense that's taught in a certification. I mean deep knowledge of block storage, object storage, file storage, when to use, how to architect them, how to tune them, how to work around the weaknesses of each, for example. And when we're done that, we're dealing with when to use load balancers, network load balancers, application load balancers, reverse proxies. When do we need to combine our load balancers for a more elegant and more performance-oriented solution? After that, we need to understand business applications such as DNS, DHCP, ARP, proxy ARP, and those. I'm sorry. We need to understand databases, where I was headed for. When do we use a relational database? When do we use a NoSQL database? When do you use a data warehouse? When and why should we create a data lake? Which ones will work in a multi-cloud environment? We need to get that. And then business applications such as CRM systems, ERP systems, unified communication systems, and many other systems that are going to improve a customer's business performance. Now, after this, we need to have some knowledge of security. And what's taught in certifications is not security. We're talking about things like identity and access management to a heavy level like Microsoft Active Directory, next generation firewalls, VPN concentrators, IDS, IPS systems, and those types of things. So now you know the tech. And of course, we need to know the cloud. Now, the part that's missing, which I haven't mentioned, is what we do is design. So it's not enough to learn the name of a service and how to configure that service. You need to learn how to put the pieces and parts of these systems together, which is what architecture is. How do I take a bunch of unrelated things, pop them together, create a solution that's good for my customers. So then there's that. And those are really the skills that you need to learn for the cloud. Because when you know all those skills, you understand every cloud, because the cloud is nothing more than a network and a data center. Now, next, what do we do as architects? Well, we design, present, and sell, but what does our day look like? A normal day might be wake up, work on a document on your computer from say 9 to 11:30. At 11:30, you may take your client to lunch on the company credit card, and you're doing that till 1 o'clock. After you take your client to lunch, you might meet with them for an hour. Sometimes during COVID, we're doing less lunches during COVID, for example, and we're doing it more virtually, but that's the case. We're going to have a meeting. And when we get done that, we're probably going to have a meeting with our team, and we're going to be talking about what we did inside of that meeting and implications of that for our business. Now, probably after that, there'll be some kind of architecture thing to start designing. So if it's very basic, you can do it on your own, but there's not a lot of basic architectures. So if there's anything after that, you may have to go build a team, which means going to your manager's manager, and their managers, and potentially all the way to the CEO to build a business case as to why you need people. Now, the next day, you may do what's called an executive briefing, where a company brings all its executives into the corporate headquarters, and either you go to the corporate headquarters or you do it via video. And during these executive briefings, the CEO of your firm may pop in, all the executives will pop in, and you'll pop in and talk about your thing. And you may be traveling for the rest of the day. The next day, you may be in meetings all day, because we go to a lot of meetings as architects. The next day, we go maybe in meetings all day. And then the day after that, you might be writing documents all day. So really, here's the thing. It's a job of design, present, and sell. So you might be building a business case one day. You may be writing a white paper to try and help sell your organization's products. Once you get more senior like me, you'll be writing thought leadership documents, which are documents that are designed to shape the industry. And those are the kind of things that we do as a cloud architect, and those are your roles and responsibilities. Meetings, more meetings, designs, presents, and sells. And one other thing, we don't get to touch the technology as a role, except for Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft PowerPoint, and some kind of a drawing program. Great question. Up and up. Mike, what are something to keep in mind when you first start working? Your job is fully remote. You want to make sure you make a good impression. Up and up, that's an incredibly good question. On my first job, which is a little different, my first job was a senior network engineer. I had zero experience. I had interviewed for a network engineer position, and I did so well on this interview when I had no experience that I was offered a senior network engineer position. Within 6 months, I was the lead architect on the team. Now, when I went to my job the first day, here's what I did. I knew I left from practicing internal medicine. I was petrified about my new job because I didn't even know what I didn't know. My manager told me I was the best guy on his team with zero experience, and I didn't even know what I didn't know. And I was terrified up and up. So what I did was this following. I actually, because I had no money in those days, I got a brand new credit card. And I told my wife, who is thankfully the most generous, decent, and perfect wife one could ever hope for, I said to my wife, I need to get this credit card. And she says, why? I said, because I need to buy lunch, dinners, and drinks for people so they don't realize how little I know. And that's what I did on my first day. I was buying everybody lunches. Second day, third day. A week into it, I realized I knew more than many of those people, but I had relationships with anybody, and I had a team, so it was really great. But up and up, what I would say in today's world, if you get a fully remote job, first thing I would do, I'd start making calls and introducing yourself to people. Ask your manager to make some introductions, ask other people in your team to make some introductions, and really go out there and show that you're there. Now, up and up, when you get there, I would show the best attitude, energy, enthusiasm, passion. I would show that I was the most likable person on the team. I would show that I was willing to do pretty much anything to get the job done as long as it's legal and ethical. I would go above and beyond, and anything it really takes to show how likable you are. I would go meet people. I would be polite with people. I would offer to help others, build some reciprocity. So then when you need help, they'll be willing to help you. And just go out there and meet people and show everyone that you're there to work, that you're happy and you're positive, and stay positive at all times. You may meet some people that get negative. Don't participate in any negativity, and show that you are the most elite and you're excited to be there. And I think you're going to do real, real, real well. Great question there, open up. Douglas G. Hi, Mike. Can you reiterate and share why the architect is more often a rewarding career than being an engineer? Douglas, this is a personal issue, and I don't know that it's more rewarding. I think it's more rewarding for some and not others. Now, Douglas, I started out as an engineer. Here's what my life was like. Anybody who was anybody would throw their things at me. And, I was working 16 hours a day as an engineer. And, I actually really liked it, but it was nonstop work. Every time there was a change, it was done at 2 o'clock in the morning. And here's the reason: I was designing systems for banks, and you can't make changes during the day. So it was a position where I worked really, really hard and didn't get paid that much money to do it. And there was just all these demands on me. And at least for me, I started to notice that there were the lightweights on the team that I thought was lightweight. They didn't know a lot about tech. I mean, it seemed like they didn't. They actually knew a lot more than I thought. Where I was hands-on on that router configuring BGP, and I was really deep techie, and I was talking about the optional transitive, non-optional transitive, talking to people and training them the finite state machine. It was the weirdest thing. The architects that were there in a suit that didn't know any of that, they knew at a high level how to put the pieces and parts together, but they knew a lot about business and they knew how to sell. They were earning double what I was earning for half of the work. Where I was there at 2 o'clock in the morning configuring routers, they were there with their corporate American Express cards, buying lunches, dinners, and drinks, and earning double my salary. And I was thinking, this is crazy. I'm a CCIE. I had 6 other certifications at the time, which nobody cares about. I didn't know that at the time. But I had all these certifications. I was killing myself. I was focused on mastering a routing protocol. I read 75,000 pages of reading for the CCIE. And here we've got people that didn't understand the tech very well. And not only did they not understand the tech very well, they came to me and asked me to help design the tech. And then they were getting paid twice as much as me. And then I became an architect. And first I was like, well, these people were lightweight. And then I found out very quickly that I was not an architect at all. I was an engineer trying to be an architect. And then I was an architect, and it did not work out well for me, at least in the first year or so. And here's the reason it didn't. I was still married to being an engineer. I loved being the techie. I was talking about the tech. And then I had a manager that basically said, hey, Mike, you know the difference between a $150,000 sales engineer that's doing technical architectures like you are as a technical architect and a $300,000 enterprise architect? And I said, no, but tell me. And then my manager said, Mike, look, stop focusing on the tech. Focus on making an impact on your customers. And I asked him what he meant. He said, make your customers' business better, improve their revenue, cut their expenses, help them automate. He should learn communication skills, sales skills, executive presence, business acumen, and all these other great things. And immediately I went, almost in about a year and a half, from a $150,000 engineer to close to a $300,000 architect, almost 20 years ago, thinking about it in retrospect. And that really was the change in my life. So I went from working hard as an engineer to jumping on an airplane and giving presentations in 3 countries a week in those days. And I loved it. I went to the Burj Al Arab in Dubai. I stayed at the Emirates Towers in Dubai. I'd be in Brisbane one day enjoying the beach. And the next thing I knew, I was in London. I loved it, loved it, loved it. So for me, the ability to write a white paper or a thought leadership paper and give a presentation was a lot easier than reading 2,000 pages of BGP materials to try and make sure that I could make something work in an environment. But that's just me. I like a job where I work 50% less and get paid twice as much. To me, that's just a better job. But you got to remember, that's my personality. I like to go out there. I like to go meet people. I like to talk to people. And Douglas, I know you, and I could see you easily being an architect or a CIO or a CTO. You've got the personality for that, where you understand people and you communicate well with people and you're a good leader. And then you can combine that technical skills, which you do have, along with these business skills. So, but it's really dependent. For somebody that doesn't like being in front of people, they'd be much happier as an engineer, and it would be more rewarding for them. I also find people that tell me they want to be architects, and then they get frustrated that we're teaching them architecture and not engineering. And engineering is more rewarding for them because they want to be that hands-on techie. They want to code. They want to configure. So I don't know if it's a matter of what's more rewarding. It's what's more rewarding for the person themselves. One of my closest friends teaches yoga, and he loves it. He's done it for 20 years. My friend Todd McLaughlin from Native Yoga is the best yoga instructor I've ever met in my entire life. It's his life. He lives it, breathes it, sleeps it. And if I said, Todd, I'd like to train you to be a cloud architect, he'd say, I can so appreciate that. I'm so grateful, but I love what I do. I heal people when they're sick. I help people, and he loves it. And that's my plan. I think it's what really matters is you do what makes you happy. Now, I go to Todd for performance guidance sometimes. And I go to Todd to learn yoga. And he's taught me a way to breathe in a manner that calms me down when I'm stressed. He's helped me deal with the disability I had after having an injury where I couldn't walk for 7 years, literally. And, I'm grateful for people that have found their passion in other things. So that's really the key. Find your passion. That's what makes you most rewarding. For me, it was not sitting behind a desk and coding or configuring. I don't know how to code. I've been an architect for 25 years, and architects don't code, but I did a lot of configuring as an engineer. But I didn't find that rewarding. What I found rewarding was helping my clients be more successful. Well, Mike, for a session with you and an aspiring journey you have, you made a strategy to plan to be a cloud engineer as a beginner. Okay, that's very good. If you desire to be a cloud engineer as your long-term goal, I think that is great. If your goal is to be a cloud architect, I strongly, strongly, strongly don't don't recommend you become a cloud engineer first. I recommend you become a cloud architect first. So what is your ultimate goal? If you have a strategy plan to be a cloud engineer, I think it's the greatest thing in the world. But I'm going to tell you right now, it's equally hard to get a job as an engineer as a job as an architect. So train for the job you desire. When should a person start applying for a job? You say you're preparing for a cloud practitioner. After that, should you start applying, Raj? Absolutely not. In fact, Raj, I would tell you, even after the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, you shouldn't start applying for the job. Raj, I think you should tell me the job that you want, and then I'll tell you the skills that you need to get there. None of those skills are covered in any of these certifications. So if you want to tell me what those certifications are, the goal is, then I can tell you what you should learn and the skills that are necessary for that job. But there's no certification on itself in the cloud space that's enough to get hired. And the reality is, in today's world, no certification except for the Cisco Certified Internet Expert is enough to get hired. And here's the reason why, Raj. When it comes to certification, it's about a name of a service and how to configure that service. But what happens from a hiring manager perspective and a company perspective is, I know as an organization, 80% of what they teach you in that certification isn't what I can actually do in real life. That's the key. What's taught in certification is not done. In a certification, they'll tell you could use one cloud. In pragmatic terms, one cloud is a single point of failure. In a certification, they tell you the proprietary services to use, so you can't get leave or use multi-cloud. And in reality, you use multi-cloud. In a certification, they give you the names of security services that would be fine if you didn't have to protect enterprise environments. In reality, we can't use those security services. We have to go to the enterprise security providers like Checkpoint or Palo Alto or Fortinet or Six. So the key, Raj, is tell me the job you want, and then I'll tell you what they are. But definitely, a certification is not a place to begin applying. Having the knowledge and skill set for the job is when you need to apply. So tell me the job you want, and then I can tell you what you should learn. up and up. And what else should I keep in mind when working in this job moving forward? You would love to know the things that can help you. The biggest thing I have to can advise you is remember up and up is you are not an engineer, and your focus can never be the technology. It needs to be the company's business. If you focus like an engineer on the tech, you will miss the business requirements and you'll be basically fired, and your replacement will say, thank you for the nice job. And I've seen it happen all the time. What you really need to keep in mind is as follows: everything takes a team. No matter how good you are, no matter how smart you are, and how many years of experience you have in technology, you're never going to be able to create a full architecture yourself. And that's where the people go wrong that try to focus on being the best techies. They think they can learn all the tech themselves. In 10 lifetimes, nobody could ever understand all the tech on the cloud. And that's why the 10x AWS certified people are not hireable. It would literally take someone 25 to 50 years to truly master cloud networking, just cloud networking. And the cloud security could be another 50-year career. Big data could be another 50-year career. And that's really why architecture is about leadership. See, as the architect, you need to have good, strong fundamentals in those network, data center, and cloud technologies. Good, strong ones. Good, strong ones. But it's really about, can you lead the team? I always say it because I learned this African proverb when I was a child, and to me it was the best thing. It changed my life. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So while half of the world is focused on let me learn everybody else's job, which you can't do. As an architect, your job is to build a team. So when I deal with a customer for $100 million solution, which is about the smallest solution I'll ever work on, and I speak to them, I'm speaking to their executives, and they're saying, I want to increase my revenue. We want to decrease our manufacturing error rate by 3%. We need to decrease our cost of goods sold. We need to make better predictions so we know what pricing strategy to use for our people. And they tell us vague business things like that. And it's up to us to be able to understand that business well enough to then translate it into technology requirements, which means we need good, strong technology fundamentals. But more importantly, we need to go back to our team and build a team of diverse people from a wide variety of backgrounds and a wide variety of skill sets. Now, it has to be a diverse team because if we all went to the same university and we all went to the same tech school after the university, the only solution we're going to have is all the same. So what you're really looking for is a wide variety of skill sets. IAM architects who just for the identity and access management strategy. I know a guy, Isaac, who worked with me. He's a great IAM architect. A big data architect, a security architect, a network architect, and it's up to us to lead the team. So by leading this team, we can take a bunch of experts from all over with various perspectives and experiences, and they can all say, well, I had this client in Dubai that we did this, and somebody else can say, when I was in Hong Kong, I had a client that did this, and someone else could say, we had this creative solution in Cape Town, and somebody else can say, wow, this workaround we did in Lagos, Nigeria, we did, which was really cool. And someone else can say, hey, in New York for this bank, we did this. And that's how your solution comes. That's where things get so great. That's where the innovation occurs. Now, I want you to think of the world's greatest architect, Steve Jobs. He was the best product architect in the world. He created more digital transformation than anyone. Now, Steve Jobs wasn't a hands-on techie. That was Steve Wozniak. Steve Jobs had the vision. Steve Jobs had the strategy, and he hired the team of all the technology professionals to do it. That's the thing to remember. At all times, remember the solution is to improve the customer's business. The solution is never about the tech. What is the tech? If I had a building architect designing the building, they need to know wind forces, weather forces, like there's there hurricanes, geology forces. For example, are there earthquakes in the environment? How tall does the building need to be? What's the building need to look like? That's the architect's focus. Now, by training an architect in how to use a hammer or a screwdriver, it does not improve their ability to design a building. So for architects, it's about, do we have deep technology knowledge, in how the stuff works, which is exactly the opposite of what's taught in certifications, which is how to configure the stuff. Teaching me how to use the scissors does not teach me how to design a graphic. And that's the difference. Design principles versus this. So I'm going to go back to build your relationships, build your relationships, and build your relationships. Because for everything good, what you need to do is have good, strong relationships. And then find out while you're there, what are the most common architectures they use? What are the most common technologies their clients need in their world? And then I would maximize my depth on those technologies. Because you can't design something you don't understand. So get expertise into their clients, what industry their clients are in, what are their clients' most common pain points, what are their clients' most common challenges in that team. Master those, and then you can think about what the tech skills are. Chris, you can bring in the next one. Since Sam, to understand a client's requirement, should a cloud architect from scratch the IT infrastructure she has a deep level understanding of what's promising up front? Since Sam, I think you have to understand the roles. Also, to write white papers and tech journals, cloud architects should have tech knowledge, isn't it? Well, yes, but I think you're missing the point, and you're confusing engineering with architecture. If I write a white paper, for example, and I write lots of white papers, it's designed to influence an industry. So my white papers are not going to include how to configure something. That's not a white paper. My white papers and tech journals and thought leadership papers are talking about someone. So if it's possible for you, Chris or Excel, to share some of the articles I've written for, say, DevOps Magazine, Information Week, or any of these others, share it now. If not, you can see these things on our website. So what goes into writing a thought leadership document? Research of your client, research of the technology, talking to all the other vendors in the industry, talking to other technology professionals inside of your organization to build it. So Sam, I'd like to give you two options. Option one, and I don't recommend this, we always recommend our technology professionals have deep tech knowledge. But I want to kind of make this clear to you. Which do you think would be better? In one case, I have an engineer that's got 25 years of engineering experience, that's never written anything great in their life, that's now an architect. And they don't have executive writing skills, and they don't have team building skills. In this particular case, what do I get? Tech mumbo jumbo. Now let's take the alternative. I get somebody like a doctor that's never worked in tech, they used to practice medicine. And I bring him into a tech company. And this doctor has the ability to bring out the best in others. This doctor has great leadership skills. The doctor can sell others working for them. Now, in this case, the doctor were to talk to the customer, and the customer said, we need something to optimize our website loading speed in order to increase sales. Just a fictitious situation. Now, if this doctor who never worked in tech before had good listening skills and compiled that and could go back to their company and then go find 10 people with 20 years experience, ask them the right questions, get their input, and the doctor wrote it in a polished, smooth manner, whose document would be better? The person that collated 10 people's information with 20 years experience each, so there's 200 years of experience, versus the person that tried to write it all themselves. So the key is most of what we write as architects is not that technical. It's about how does the tech improve the business performance. Nobody's going to ask me as an architect to write how to configure CloudFront, ever. Now, Sid Sam, they're going to ask me to write why you should use multiple content delivery networks to improve your website speed, performance, and system availability. While using a single content delivery like CloudFront will get you fired when CloudFront goes down. That would be another thing. And by the way, Sid Sam, in certifications, AWS talks about CloudFront as the ultimate content delivery network. But you know what they don't use themselves? Just CloudFront. They use Fastly, they use Akamai, they use and CloudFront as well. And why don't they use a single cloud content delivery network? Because it's a single point of failure. So what we're really writing about is how tech can impact business performance. I wrote a thought leadership document 15 years ago before mobile phones were so, 20 years ago before mobile phones were so common, that talked about how mobile phones could impact the doctor's lives because I used to practice medicine. So it's more of that. It's more of how does the tech impact the business? And yes, you need deep tech knowledge, but the knowledge is not how to configure it. The knowledge is how the stuff works. That's the difference. In certifications, the technology is how to configure. You will never configure as an architect. You will design, design, design. Kind of keep that in the back of your mind. That's the difference. So yes, we need deep technical knowledge, but our knowledge is less tech than the engineers in the how-to. It's the why. Why would I want to integrate unified communications into a business? How does that impact the business performance? What can unifying communications do to get people speaking together across all parts of the world in a lifelike manner that can foster better creativity, better collaboration? And with this better creativity and collaboration, do I get less errors when we manufacture things? Do we design solutions faster? Now, again, I don't need to be a data scientist or a machine learning expert either, but I can write a thought leadership document on how machine learning can help a customer make better business inferences. And in the process, I can research machine learning. I can reach out to some data scientists that I know. We can collaborate together, and then I can write a paper that's going to be rock solid, that's going to influence an industry. So who do you think would be write a better paper? Me, and I'm not a data scientist. I'm an architect and enterprise architect who's an expert on networking and cloud stuff. But who would write a better paper on data science? An expert business executive that's got 25 years experience writing thought leadership document that will go ask the 10 data scientists that I know, that will also ask some big data architects and get their input. And then I would write it in a business friendly executive manner with the advice of all the other professionals. So for me, we're going to have 10 to 20 people, which each have 10 plus years experience. So my document on a topic that I don't know will have at least 100 years experience, or somebody that's busy focused on the tech that doesn't know the business, doesn't know how to solve the customer's problem, just knows the tech. That makes them a great, great, great engineer. But Sid Sam, you're forgetting the role of the architect is to improve the customer's business, not to configure their tech. We don't touch the tech. So I hope that makes sense. And that's why we have to retrain engineers to be architects because, and here's the sad reality. We speak to executives, CIOs, CTOs, we speak to people at all the cloud providers, and they say, Mike, when you send us an architect, I want to make sure they're not an engineer. I don't want somebody that talks like an engineer, walks like an engineer. I don't want a techie. I want a business executive that understands the technology. One of the best things that anybody said that described it right is, Mike, I want a salesperson in a lab coat where they can back up the things so they don't sell something that's not going to work, but they're more of a sales rep. Good question, Sid Sam. And Sid Sam, in our program, we have 500 hours training, and we do deep, deep, deep technical training, but it's more on the how to design, because that's what we do, as opposed to how to configure, which is somebody else's job. Lady Godiva, can you talk about how your program is different and how you almost over prepare us for the technical networking side of it and why you do it? Yes, Lady Godiva. What a great question. So it's really funny that, one of the things that people say to me is they say, Mike, you taught us all of this BGP. You taught us all this data center environment. Mike, you even made us build our own clouds from scratch, which I do because I make sure that people have deep technical skills. And then my students get hired and they say, Mike, now that I'm hired, I don't do anything tech in my job. I respond to RFIs, RFPs, RFQs. I write statements of work. I give presentations. I make PowerPoints. Well, Mike, I don't even draw my own solutions. I draw them on a napkin sometimes, take a picture of it, and send it to the graphics team to make it really beautiful in InDesign versus a drawing program. Sometimes our architects even say that. I know I didn't draw my own thing. I'd take a picture of a piece of paper and send it to the graphics team. Like, why so much tech? Why did you give us all this tech? And I said, there's two things. I said, uh, for for most of my students, or at least 50% of my students, they've never worked in tech before, and we're getting them hired at AWS, at Azure, at JP Morgan Chase, at Deloitte, Accenture, KPMG, Apple. I could go on and go on and go on. And the point is they're getting hired for the following reason. When they interview, my people show up as extremely technically competent. And they answer one or two tech questions, and then the interview is over, and the tech wise, and it's now business stuff. So I want to know the following. If I've got someone that's never worked in tech before, first, I want to make sure they've got deep fundamentals, because when it comes down to it as an architect, if your fundamentals are strong, you'll be able to lead the team of the specialist experts that are going to give you your information. So that's the first reason I do it. The second reason I do it is you have to pass the interview. And in order to pass the interview, then you're in a position where now you've got something special because you can pass the interview. So I over prepare my people in tech just so they can get their first tech job as an architect. And even when they're an engineer, I still over prepare them. Because if an engineer's been writing code their whole life, that still doesn't prepare them to design an end-to-end network and data center solution that's high security. So I over prepare everybody because here's the thing. You know, destiny favors the prepared. I train others in a manner that others won't. So tomorrow our students can do what others can't. And that's why when people take certifications, they don't get hired. And that's why when I train them, my students get hired every day. That's why last week we had somebody with no tech background who just got hired. We had a second person with no tech background that got hired last week too. That's why this week, you know, one of my students went on an interview, and on the interview they asked this person, hey, how fast could you start if we wanted you to? On the first screening interview. And that's because we over prepare. So for me, I prepare for the unknown, an unknowable environment, and that way I'm never surprised. And I train my students to be prepared for any situation that comes their way. And that way, they're the most elite architects in the world. I train them, I overtrain them in business, and I overtrain them in tech, and I overtrain them in presentation skills, sales skills. And that's why our students get paid more, because they're the best. So Lady Godiva, that's exactly the reason I do it. That's exactly why I over prepare all of you guys, because I want to know when you go on an interview, you're getting hired. Lady Godiva, like I always say, if a person's ever been on more than 3 interviews, not with the same company, like if somebody interviews with company A, company B, and company C, and they're not hired, there's something wrong. What's wrong? It's one of the following: it's their technical competency, it's communication skills, it's attitude, it's emotional intelligence, it's communication skills, or it's interview technique. So by making sure that you guys are exactly what hiring managers want, and you're their perfect hire, you're their dream hire, they almost can't help but hire you, regardless of your level of experience. And that's why we're doing it. That's why our students get hired with no background experience as solution architects as their first job all the time, because we train them at others in a manner that others won't. So tomorrow our students can do what others can't. Great question, Lady Godiva. Question to the next one. Hi, Mike. Do you recommend for a beginner AWS architect or AWS cloud engineer? DC, I recommend that you train for the job you want. If your goal is to be an architect, I recommend you become an architect. If your goal is to be an engineer, I recommend you become an engineer. So here's this thing, DC. If you want to learn how to fly an airplane, don't become an airplane mechanic first. If you want to become a doctor, don't go to nursing school first, go to medical school. And that's really the key. Training you to be an engineer will not help you become an architect because it's a different job. Now, if your goal, DC, is to be hands-on in tech, code and configure, then a cloud engineer is a great job. If you want a more business-oriented job where you design, present, and sell, I recommend you become an architect. Now, it's really based upon your personality. Now, I'll tell you, as an architect versus an engineer, you can earn double or triple over the long term in your career as an architect. But it's not that you're a beginner. It doesn't matter that you're a beginner. I mean, for example, Daniel Bosu was selling shoes at Nordstrom. didn't even graduate high school, and we got him a job as a solution architect at JP Morgan Chase. And JP Morgan Chase was lucky to have him because he's awesome. He's the son I always wanted. Honestly, he's perfect in every way. We had a student, Delroy, who was an EMT, meaning taking people back and forth in the ambulance. And her first job was a cloud security architect. And that's fine. We had Coyote. His first job was at AWS as a solution architect. We had Ivan Tamba, and you can see videos of all these people. And Ivan Tamba was a college student working as a waiter serving food, and AWS hired him. They liked him so much that he even asked him, he says, look, I'll graduate college in 6 months. Can you wait on my start date for 6 months so I can finish school? A kid that was 24 with zero experience in tech, and AWS waited 6 months for him because he was that good. Jennifer recently got hired for a bank, and she was in mental health tech. Valwinder was a stay-at-home mom for the last 8 years, and she got hired at Microsoft as a cloud solutions architect. So the key is what do you want to do? What would you like to do? If you want to be an architect, train to be an architect. You want to be a cloud engineer, train to be a cloud engineer. So do you want to be a hands-on techie? Be an engineer. Do you want to be more of an executive that also does technology? Be an architect. And the truth is that's up to you. But the biggest problem we see in technology is people have trained for somebody else's job. And they think and they hope that by becoming a cloud engineer, it'll make them an architect later. And it doesn't. I retrain cloud engineers every single day of the week. They say, I don't know what, I have 10 years experience. I was this, I've been a cloud engineer for 5 years, and nobody's willing to hire me as an architect, and they won't be. And the reason they won't be is if that engineer doesn't have architect skills, they have engineering skills, they're not going to be an architect, they're going to be an engineer. So in medicine, we don't go to law school to learn how to be doctors and hope that law will teach us medicine. In tech, we should prepare for the job we want, not somebody else's job, and you'll have a much better career. It'll save you 5 or 10 years of your career. It'll get you to your goals much faster, which will get you the salary you want faster. And the faster and younger you are when you get your better salaries, the more you'll earn throughout your career. So what do you want to do, DC? That would be another question I have. Be a hands-on techie or be a business executive that also works with tech? That's your answer. Tell me that and I'll tell you how to get there. Chris, we can go to the next one. You know what cloud architect does in the consultancy company, but what permanent job does a cloud architect do in a bank? The same job they do in a consulting firm. And it's not like once the job is done, there's nothing else. There's continuous work. Okay, so here's the thing, Robix. Does business change? Does business ever stagnate? Do you think what a business does today, they can do a year from now and still make money when new competitors run and their competition changes things? Business is not static, and therefore architecture is not static. So what do we do as architects? We do one thing to impact the customer's business performance. And as soon as that changes, guess what, Robix? There's another project we have to do to improve a customer's business performance. It's not like we're going to take a bank, for example, or a global retailer and instantly change everything all at the same time. If we did, the customers wouldn't like the field. They wouldn't be our customers anymore. So everything is incremental adjustment. And it's really about, the best way I can use it is I'll use either the way medical people diagnose things. They assess, they diagnose, they plan, they implement, and then they evaluate. Now, in the Air Force has something called an OODA loop. We do the same thing. Observe what's going on around you, orient yourself to the things going around you, make a decision, and act. And then after you act, observe what happens. So it's always a constant incremental process. You know, I'm the CEO of a company. As the CEO of the company, I'm effectively the company's architect. And I've got a team of architecture. As soon as we do one thing, you can ask Chris, there's something else to do, right? Is it ever stagnant? Do we ever stop trying to improve?
Sorry, I had an ambulance going by. It was loud.
Chris, is business ever stagnant? Do we ever do one thing and then after that say we're done? We don't have to make any tech changes for the future?
No, never.
Have you ever worked in any business in your life where as soon as they did something, they assumed they never needed to make any changes for the future?
Never.
Never.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, Robux. I don't care
If
what.
if they do that, that business is no longer there in a year.
Yes.
It, if you're stagnant, you're gone.
If you're stagnant, you're gone. And that's really the key is if you're stagnant, you're gone. And that's really, really why we have companies that have died over the past. So
Yeah,
all
just
good.
think about Wells Fargo. Their logo is a stagecoach. Do you think they're really using stagecoaches still?
Exactly. But they were.
They're not transferring money by stagecoach anymore.
They're not transferring things. And that's the thing. The Cisco that I joined was a hardware company. The Cisco of today is a software company. Why did it change? The industry changed.
Yeah, Nintendo was a card game company.
Exactly.
Sony wasn't in the gaming industry. Now they
Exactly.
have PlayStations.
So that's the key, Robux. It's never stagnant. When you work at a bank and I worked at a bank, it was first, Mike, let's connect the two internet service providers so we can load share via BGP because you know how to do it. As soon as I did that, hey, Mike, the latency on the system is a millisecond longer than we wanted it to be. So as soon as I fixed that, hey, Mike, if we could get this algorithmic trading thing to operate a little faster, that could equate to another $30 million each month. Boop. Now we're working on low latency trading systems. And that's the key. There's always, always, always going to be something done. And what are we going to do at a bank? We're going to gather the requirements from the executives of the business goals. We're then going to build our own team. We're going to consult with the entire technology team, and we're going to have a huge team. We're going to then present that back to the executive decision makers that have the budget to go buy our thing. And then once we design it, what's going to happen? They're going to hand it over to their build team, which is their engineering team. They'll build it. It'll be managed by a project manager. And then guess what? There's going to be a new project. So it's always, always in flux. Great question, Robert. You're pretty much interested in Mike's expertise and training. Happy to do so. That's why I do what I do. I didn't mean to ever come out of retirement. I saw what the certification providers were teaching, and I knew nobody would be hireable. I literally speaking interviewed 1,000 AWS certified people and asked them any architecture principles, and they didn't know. That's why I came out of retirement, and that's how good a student that gets hired almost every day now. Please request how Mike to elaborate on the tech stuff, how a cloud architect can survive without deep tech skills. You attended a couple of Mike's webinars. Well, here's the thing. It's not about how much tech you know. Now, I overtrain my people with tech and give them more than they need. But it's not the tech that our focus is. That's what people misunderstand engineering and architecture. Our focus is how do we fix the business? We're a consultant. And if your focus is on tech, guess what? You're a wonderful engineer. But guess what? You're not a good architect. Because while you're focusing on the tech, what are you going to miss? The business. Sid Sam, I don't know which country you live in. And I don't know a lot about sports other than martial arts and powerlifting and Olympic weightlifting, the thing that I've done in my life. But here's the thing. There's a sport called baseball where somebody throws a ball and somebody else hits the ball or doesn't hit the ball. And we have this thing called the pitcher. And the pitchers can throw these balls at 100 miles an hour, and they can throw them so hard that some people can't hit them. And a pitcher who can throw a ball that nobody else can hit gets paid millions of dollars a year. Now, can the pitcher hit the ball? No, in most cases, they either strike out every single time. And why are they being paid, in some cases, so much money when they can't hit the ball, which is a key component of the game? And the reason is their job is not to be excellent hitters, it's to be excellent throwers. So it's about having the right skills. Now, if you went to a doctor and they were an expert on physical therapy but couldn't diagnose you with the right problem, you're going to die even if they can fix your knee. Because somebody would go in there with cancer, it would be missed, and you know it would be cut. He'd be recommended here. If somebody had knee pain and it was only a physical therapy background, somebody would be trying to exercise the knee, manipulate the soft tissue around the knee, strengthen the area around the knee. But if your person couldn't diagnose that they had osteomyeloma, a bone cancer in the knee, and they treated it as physical therapy, the person would die. So it's really, really about how do you solve the customer's business problems with technology? So you do need the technology on how things work and how to put the pieces together. But Said Sam, I'm going to tell you right now, the $300, $400, and $5,000, $100,000 cloud architects don't know anything about tech. They're great leaders at putting the tech people together. You meet with an enterprise architect at some of these companies that's earning $500,000 a year. They're going to have this little silly little framework with stuff that you've never heard about, system buses and all this other stuff. But you know what they do know? They know how to build the right team, and they know how to build a team of exceptional people. And those exceptional people can solve customers' problems, and that's why we're paid the most. So, what do you really want to be? You want to be great at being an architect, designing, presenting, and selling, or do you want to be a great engineer? Choice is yours. To be a cloud architect, you need to have a deep knowledge of the network. Yes, if you don't understand the network, you're there. Now, a CCNA isn't deep knowledge of the network. A CCIE is moderate knowledge of the network. But if you had somewhere between CC and P level skills, realistically speaking, you probably have enough networking background. You so it's not about a foundation required for a CCNA. That's just a certification, Robert. It's knowledge. Do you know how to load share without getting out of order packets on multiple direct connections? That's a critical architect skill. Do you know how to engineer your traffic? That's a critical architect skill. Do you know how to design an IP addressing system that doesn't collapse with 20,000 remote locations? That's a critical cloud architect skill. So there's a difference between a certification, which is here's how you configure OSPF, and architect skills, which is here's how do you design OSPF in a scalable environment so the systems can grow and scale without crashing. That's what the difference is. So yes, networking is the foundation. And look, an AWS advanced networking isn't foundational at all. It's not even an intro to an intro to an intro to junior level networking. So we're not talking about foundations to certification. We're talking about foundations of knowledge to get hired, Robert. That's what we're talking about. What's special about the CIO profile? Can I tell you how you think? Absolutely. And that's what we teach in our course, and you're a student on our course, so please follow the course and come to class, present in class. And when I ask you to present to the CIO, do that. And I have a huge section in our program about that. And I know you're a student there. So, yes, I can tell you how they think. I have told you how they think. Please go through that lesson and do that lesson, Robux, and you're going to do great. Do you advise coach your cloud architect trainees on the salary they should ask for when they get interviewed? No, you don't ask for the salary when you get interviewed. You ask for the salary after somebody's made the decision to hire you. That's very different. And here's the thing, before the interview, they may have an idea in their mind. After the interview, you get hired for something more. And that's why you never pigeonhole yourself. Plus, if you talk about the salary before you get interviewed, you can price yourself out of the market. So never, never, never do you discuss salary prior to them saying, yes, I want to hire you. And if they force you to, then give them a range give them a range and say, Bail, it's going to be based upon the job, based upon the roles and responsibilities, and based upon the structure of your organization. And I can't comment yet until we've actually spoken. So never ever discuss money prior to them saying, yes, I want to. And then when yes, they want to, then you know that, then you're in a position to negotiate a higher salary. About 15 minutes I can go, but I'll take as many questions as I can in the next 15 minutes. Hi, Ahmed, how is your course structured? You mean, are there some sort of interacting? Okay, so here's the thing, Habib. I would never, ever, ever create a course that other people have where it's PowerPoint slides with audio. Our training is real training, it's real education. And we have basically three phases of the Cloud Architect Career Development Program. There's the live phase. And here's what we do in the live phase. We get together on Zoom 3 times per week. And on Zoom, we talk 2 days per week. We do architectural designs, and we get deep in our tech architectural designs. And I don't teach architecture on YouTube. I teach basic simple tech on YouTube. I teach architecture in our program. Architecture is how do we design an end-to-end solution to solve a customer's business problem. Now, 1 time per week on Zoom, we do leadership skills, sales skills, executive presence skills, CXO relevancy, emotional intelligence, ROI modeling, and those things. So twice per week, we teach live, and once per architecture, and once per week we house it. Now, because these roles involve a lot of business knowledge plus a lot of tech knowledge, we use several people. I'm the primary instructor to this program, but we have 4 MBAs in this program that help coach and teach people along the way. We have 2 PhD business school professors that also periodically come in and help teach these business skills. So there's that. So 3 live classes per week on Zoom, live interaction. We talk, we work together. Now, in between live classes, you'll have some videos and some homework assignments. You may be asked to optimize your resume in one of the assignments. We may give you multiple videos on what to do, ask you how to do it. For example, we may have you do videos that are part of an interview, like a tell me about yourself question, where we learn about you, but we can coach you how to say it, because that's the first question that goes in an interview. So we will do a wide variety of exercises. We are going to do a project. It could be a presentation. It could be a written document. It could be an architecture. And you do that work in between classes and you turn it in. Now, we do have labs when you reach a certain point of the class, but these labs are not normal labs. Well, some are and some aren't. Look, we do about 25 labs on AWS, 20 to 25 labs on Azure. That's fine. But we do what I call real labs that aren't a waste of your time. We do those labs so you can tell somebody if they ask you, yes, I've done it. But Habib, we get into the deep tech labs, and here's the reason why. What do we do as architects? We generally build the plan to take the stuff from the network and the data center and move it to the cloud, which is a network and a data center. And where all other technology systems fail is they only teach the cloud. They don't teach the network and the data center thing. So if you don't have the network and data center things, then you're not going to be able to build the plan because you're not going to understand what you're going to move. So everybody else is worried about, configuring some silly thing on the cloud. And look, we do that on AWS and Azure. Here's where we do our real labs. Our students will come in and work with our VMware servers, and they'll create some virtual machines, and they'll create some containers the hard way, so they know how to do it the real way. Because you can't migrate what you don't understand. Our students will build firewalls and VPN concentrators and file servers on Linux and Windows to get hands-on experience with that. Our students will build basic LAMP stacks and things like that. And then our students get into the heavy-duty work. Our students will build Active Directory servers to learn identity and access management. And then all of our students learn how to build the cloud. And every one of our students builds a cloud from scratch. And I don't mean a VPC like when you log into AWS. I mean the entire cloud. And the reason we build the entire cloud from scratch is so you truly understand what a cloud is. And once you understand what a cloud is, if it's AWS, Azure, Google, Alibaba, a Palo Alto cloud, a Cisco cloud, a Dell cloud, it's all the same because you're going to understand it's all the same. And that way we do it. Now, we do that for lots of reasons. Now, what does a hiring manager care in a perfect employee? Do you have the skills? Yes, we show that you have the skills. Now, they care, do you know what you know and know what you don't know? By building a cloud, you're going to learn a lot more there. They also care about your energy, enthusiasm, and passion. Who's more passionate, someone that built their own cloud or someone, for example, that just did some AWS labs? Clearly, there's one that's there. Who's willing to go above and beyond, which is what employers care about, a person who built their own cloud versus this. And then, of course, we help you with branding on your resume, branding on your social media thing. We teach you how to interview. We teach you how to negotiate a higher salary, as well as every skill necessary to be a cloud architect. That's what we teach in our cloud architect career development program. And it's nothing like what we do on YouTube. It's what we do on YouTube is the best we can possibly do for free. And even what we do on YouTube gives people a competitive advantage over everybody else's training that's out there. But what we do for our students helps them get the most elite roles. And that's why most of our students earn between $120,000 and $280,000 per year upon graduation. With people, I'd say typical is about 150 to 160 for people that have never worked in tech before. But, it's all dependent, at least that's for people in the US. It's all dependent upon someone's background, energy, enthusiasm, executive presence, communication skills, and emotional intelligence that gets them there. People that have worked in tech before typically come in the higher range, over 200. People that are new to tech typically come in around 130 to 140, 150, 160 on average. That's what we're saying. Great question, Habib Ahmed. I've got about 10 minutes. I have one question here. I can possibly answer one or two more. So if you've got any questions, let me know. Robix, you're more than welcome. How is a systems engineering background different than a network engineering background as it relates to cloud architecture? Paul asked, systems engineering is a meaningless term. I don't know what it is. And here's the reason why. Systems engineering could be designing a GPU. Systems engineering could be designing a server. Systems engineering can be designing a cell phone. And systems engineering can be anything. Now, network engineering is a very good, strong engineering background where you're basically determining your routing path, whether you're using BGP, you're setting up BGP, what your interior gateway is, protocol, whether it's OSPF, for example, or intermediate systems to intermediate systems. Could be EIGRP, but that's mostly going away. How are you designing it? How are you structuring it? How are you optimizing your routing? Where are you doing that? If you're setting up a network, are you going to set it up as an all layer 3 network, or are you going to rely on spanning tree or rapid spanning tree? What kind of micro segmentation you're doing? That's what your network engineering is. Network engineering is tuning and configuring the network. Architecture is not engineering. Architecture is designing and presenting and selling an end-to-end solution. Now, what is the solution we sell? It's a network and a data center solution. So network engineering is a good background if the engineering you did was tuning. So for example, knowing how to configure BGP, router BGP 65312, neighbor 192.168, remote-AS 65314, network 10.0.0.0, mask 255.255.255.0. That is network engineering. That's not what we do as cloud architects. Cloud architects would be building the network and the data center plan. Okay, Paul, I've got two links that are equal cost across different internet service, across different service providers to the cloud. Do I leak a more specific subnet on one of them? Do I change the weight of a route? Do I change the local preference? Do I have the provider on the end send me a community, I match the community and I change something? So that's network architecture versus network engineering, which is configuring it. Now, cloud architecture includes network architecture, but it also includes the data set elements, the virtual machines, the containers, the storage area networks, and so many other things. So systems engineering could be anything. Systems engineering could be a pre-sales role where you're selling networking stuff, but systems engineering can be anything. So I can't comment on systems engineering because I've seen 1,000 different jobs that all have that title. It's kind of like a dumping ground for we don't know what to call you, we'll call you a systems engineer. And network engineering is engineering the network. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. But architecture is about designing a solution to a customer's problem and designing that end-to-end solution. So I hope I answered your question. I don't know what systems engineering is. I mean, I've had a title systems engineer, but I've had friends that had I have friends that had titles systems engineer, and they all did different things because it's not really a meaningful term. But network engineering, I told you what that is, and network architecture is the design of the things that the network engineers will build. And the cloud architect thing is basically designing all the systems that your network engineers, your security engineers, and your cloud engineers will build. So there you go. Habib, thanks for your detailed answer recording the course. Hope I will have a great experience. You'll have a wonderful experience if you take our course. And if you take our course and do the work, not just buy the course. I don't want to tell anybody to just buy the course if they're not going to do the work, because you've got to do the work. But if you do the course and you do the work, you should be highly, highly, highly successful and get yourself a fantastic job upon graduation. And graduation for us is when you're hired. The next one is going to be the last one for the day. Mike, how not to take on too many projects when you're new hired. What if your boss thinks you're capable, but I don't think you are yet? Up and up, you've got to believe in yourself. If your manager wants to give you projects, chances are you should probably take them. Now, if you're struggling, ask for help. But if you're not struggling, go do it. The last thing you want to be seen as in your first architect job is lazy. So the key is to take the first project, which they give you, and they're probably not going to give you too many projects, but take your first project and look at it and say, can I do this? And the answer is yes, you can do it. Communicate with your manager. Look, this is all I'm ready to do right now. Give me this. Let me get through this. I want to make sure it's successful. Go to the next one. That's fine too. So the key is to know your limitations. If you think you can do it, do it. If you don't think you can do it, let them know very gently. I can't wait to be able to do all of these. I want to do this one first, make sure I do a great job and taking on too many things and risk making a mistake. I promise you, I'll do whatever it takes to be one of your best long-term cloud architects. I'm just getting my feet wet. I'm so grateful for the opportunity. Please work with me for a little while, and they'll be there. So that's really, really the key. Is doing as much as you feasibly can, but not getting to the point where you're doing more than you think you can. Because if you do that, then you're going to make mistakes, and making mistakes is not a great thing. So I hope I answered your question up and up. As I mentioned, that was the last question we could take today. I'd like to end on the following. If you haven't downloaded our completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect and Professional Exam Guide, please download it now. Tell a friend. It's about as great as you can be. It's a great product written by 100 plus people with hundreds of years total experience together. On Thursday next week, we have our completely free How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar. Follow us on LinkedIn to see new magazine articles, new videos, thought leadership documents, and so many things that we do completely free to help you. And the security discount, which is 30% off of all of our product, ends very soon at the end of the month. So take advantage of it while you can. I hope to see many of you in class, and I can't wait to see you all cloud hired. Take care, everyone.